AI is able to, figure out what people are there to do.
When if it seems simple to use, then we've probably done what we should have done well.
How is the day-to-day life of a software engineer actually changing?
Developers are not staring at blank screens anymore, right? They already have a starting point.
Yeah. What is Agent Hub?
The way people interact with the systems will probably slowly change.
The interface that can become a barrier, AI actually, removes the barrier. It's no longer a wall.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think we'll ever be like a AI first company. We will always remain a customer first company.
Hello and welcome to this very, very special session here at the PhonePe Bengaluru office. And I think all of us are at truly transformative times, like I think I was mentioning earlier. And we've moved beyond now AI just being a buzzword and a future technology to something that is really fundamental to the way digital products are actually designed, the way they're built, and the way that they're experienced. And when you're talking about hundreds of millions of users like what PhonePe has, it's not just about intelligent experiences and impressive experiences, it's also about building safe, reliable, and secure experiences. And today we're going behind the scenes at PhonePe to understand how AI is actually being built at PhonePe and the team who is really behind that transformation. Thank you so very much for joining us. We're joined by three senior leaders from PhonePe. It's my pleasure to introduce you. We have Santanu Sinha, who is the chief architect at PhonePe, somebody who is, of course, very senior and very respected here at PhonePe. We have Radhakrishna Ramaseshu, who is the head of engineering for consumer apps. And we have Gautham Krishnamurthy, who is the head of product for consumer platform. It is absolutely wonderful to have each and every one of you here with us today. And of course, talking about the transformative part of AI, I think that's probably something you're dealing with day in and day out, I'm sure. Gautham, I'd like to actually start with you. Obviously, using the PhonePe app is like second nature, I think, for a lot of people, right? Like we pay our bills, we buy our cup of tea, we book our travel, insurance. There are so many things that we do. And we can navigate apps in general pretty well, right? Navigate menus, search for things. We've all become experts at that. But how is that experience all set to change? Is it set to change very dramatically? What can we really look forward to?
Yeah, thank you, Beverly. Thanks for being here. I believe that it's one of the biggest changes in how apps are used since touchscreens launched. Traditionally, people have been using PhonePe or all of the other apps where we've been trying to get users to learn our interfaces and the language of the app. AI has started to invert that, where the app is now learning the language of the user. Even in highly utilitarian conditions such as payments on PhonePe, right? AI is able to, figure out what people are there to do, much before they are finding an icon or going inside a menu, or they are trying to fill a form, right? Something as simple as, hey, send 100 rupees to Santanu, or hey, why did my payment did not go through, can take our users right to the action by putting together the data and the screens needed for that. This would have been like a, 3-step 5-menu navigation otherwise, right? And to be honest, it's not just navigation, it's also how people discover new things to do, right? It's not, AI can infer better, it can understand signals a lot more accurately. We are able to, tell users what the next best action for them is in the app, right? So yes, the changes are coming, and it's also very clear with data that we see. A large number of our users on PhonePe who use search on PhonePe are now asking natural language queries, right? And we see a higher rate of task completion.
And also, the fact that PhonePe has so many different kinds of users, right? Like different levels of digital dexterity, I want to say. How is this actually going to be helpful for people who are not that tech savvy? What would you say about that? Like, how would it make a difference?
So let's take an example, right? Let's say somebody in Karnataka who's using PhonePe for the first time and also is very new to digital payments, right? They likely heard from someone that, hey, you don't have to, walk to a physical location in order to pay your electricity bill. It's much easier. So let's say she opens the app and, and goes to search and says current bill yes to, right? Now that's just one sentence, but there's so much
Involved
that's
in that.
packed into it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So AI is able to figure out, what the user means, right? And then there is a lot more forgiveness than what you see in traditional navigation, because you can call electricity, you can call it current, you can call it a few other things, you can call it BESCOM, for all you may know, right? In fact, we just launched a AI-powered search within PhonePe's search in the app. And users are able to do this already and across multiple languages. So the interface that can become a barrier for end users or users who are new to digital payments or who are new to even smartphones, AI actually removes that barrier. It's no longer a wall.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what I think the great beauty of AI is, really, like removing a lot of barriers which would otherwise stand in people's way, right? That's in the way it's like democratizing things, which I think is essentially what AI is, one of the benefits of it, one of the large benefits of it. And of course, if the way users are actually interacting with apps changes, then the way apps are built also needs to change, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong. And we are in transformative times. And RK, I'd like to come across to you for this. We are in transformative times. The way things are being designed, the way things are built is being changing. But before we get into that technicality, I would like to understand from you, how is the role, and perhaps you can weave it into this, how is the day-to-day life of a software engineer actually changing? Ever since, I know this is a big question, ever since AI entered the chat, so to speak, and what are the biggest gains you've really seen in productivity? I'm not just talking about, writing more code or things like that, but how much more reliable is it making things? Of course, cutting out of repetitive work, we do know about as well. So what has been your experience?
Yeah, at PhonePe, right, the platform and the code base is operating at such massive scale, right? And this kind of defines how our product development lifecycle, that we call it, PDLC, and that is rapid, that is moving at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
Now, historically speaking, a typical developer would be burdened with a whole lot of, boilerplate code writing, setting up the environment, setting up, the test cases, scenarios, etc., which would take away the cognitive, which would add on to the cognitive load, if I can say, right? So with the advent of AI, every single stage of this PDLC life cycle, there has been, AI is the partner for a developer in every single step. Whether it is about drafting a PRD to begin with, PRD stands for Product Requirement Document, to writing boilerplate code. Developers are not staring at blank screens anymore, right? They already have a starting point.
Yeah.
Then there is all the things around testing, quality, and how do we ensure that time is spent right on building core value-added business logic that we care about, and not spent on things which are more mundane and time consuming.
So it's freeing up cognitive abilities, basically, right?
Yeah.
And Santanu, I think obviously we touched upon some of the experiences that we can look forward to. It all sounds very simple to a normal person, right? Like, in the sense, it sounds okay. This is conversational AI, but it is not so simple behind the scenes. Obviously, there are many steps which have to happen behind the scenes for something like what Gautham was talking about to come into play. Or what do you feel needs to sort of come together to make that happen? I know it is already happening in some ways, but
I mean, if it seems simple to use, then we've probably done what we should have done well.
this is true,
Right?
correct?
So a lot of work goes into it, actually. And our AI journey started long back, like maybe 2 years back. And launching for the consumers on the app is the last thing we did. We did a lot of groundwork. We got capacity on our DCs. We have partners who can provide us with LLM hosting capabilities, and we are in a heavily audited domain, and we handle a lot of sensitive data and customer data. And generally, we've been culturally very cognizant about the nature of the data that we handle. I mean, all of the people working at PhonePe are PhonePe users. We all use the app, right? So so we are not building privacy for others, it's privacy for ourselves
close
as
to
well,
home,
right?
literally,
Yeah. So basically what we did is we just created every single part of the stack that we needed, instead of waiting for other people to or vendors to provide. Also it helped us learn a lot about the technology in itself, right? So yeah, so and PhonePe has typically worked in a way that we build a lot of robust horizontal platforms, you know, and the complexity actually builds up in layers, right? And that's why it works really well, because we have layers which are like really simple, but they can operate at very high scale, and you basically build on top of that. So we applied the same thing, and because traditionally we've been a little strong on the engineering side of things, we had a lot of raw material which we already had to build our systems with. So yeah, so it has been a journey, there's been a lot of learning, but yeah, we did start from the scratch, but not really. We already had a bunch of stuff at our disposal.
And I like the humility. We had a little bit of good engineering. I think you can say a lot more than that, actually. And Gautham, I just wanted to come back to you about this, you know, the like what we're talking about, the AI experience for users, because I feel like people would want to know a little bit more about that, because it might sound almost too good to be true to some people. So what does the future user journey really look like at PhonePe? Like, in the sense, like, does someone just come and say, do this for me, and it happens? Like, is it that simple, or how does it work?
Well, I think very optimistically, going from, you know, coming in, looking for things to you know, getting the system to do everything that you need, anticipate, you know, what you're trying to do, anticipate problems that can be solved before it becomes a problem, right? So that is really where we see ourselves going. It also at the scale that PhonePe operates at, right? And at population scale, there are just so many things which become a part of the network effect that, you know, an app like PhonePe has. For example, right, fraud, right? You know, I'm pretty sure everyone has heard about very creative and new fraud patterns that emerge every single day, right? And you know, with what AI can do for us and at the scale that we operate, we are able to infer those patterns, you know, and do it much before anyone else can in most cases, and then apply that across the ecosystem. So, you know, we get there much faster. The blast radius or the impact of such things is much lower. So, you know, that is something that we'll continue doing. And, you know, AI is a force multiplier in that field, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, talking about the fact that, you know, AI is a force multiplier, and the fact that, you know, obviously at PhonePe, scale is the biggest strength, really, you know, one of the biggest strengths, let me put it that way. And if I can come back to you, Santanu, for this, you know, the hundreds of millions of users, and it's not just about, you know, intelligent, impressive experiences. It is also about making that happen at a very reliable, safe and secure way. How are you actually, what are the kind of architecture and design choices that have been made that actually makes that possible?
Yeah, that's a
big question.
So, yeah, it is as a matter of fact a very big question, because so we have a set of guidelines we kind of follow when building products. One of them is you know, to keep things a little simple and always focus a lot on performance and security, right, and redundancy everywhere at every layer, right? So that's the same lens we basically took for doing this. So we have our own gateways, which all of our software basically talks to, like all LLM enabled software like agents or analytics and bots. So they all talk to like a central gateway, and we have our own knowledge store systems, right, which some of them we've already built for a while. A little segue to the fact that we've actually had like a fairly powerful machine learning platform long before we started doing AI, right? So as I said, we did start from the scratch, but not exactly from the scratch, because our ability to deploy, say for example, open weight models to our GPUs, or like they are built as an extension to the machine learning platform itself. So that platform can now sort of deploy LLMs there online scoring models to do real-time scoring for, say, for example, fraud detection and other stuff, recommendations and stuff, and also deploy models which actually run on user's phone, so that we don't have to handle customer-sensitive data on the server side, right? So it's very privacy focused.
Yeah.
So so same platform. It can do all of that, like right from the device all the way to servers with massive number of GPUs, right? Farms of that. So that, yes, and we have our own software which manages all these deployments across thousands of servers. So again, leveraged all of that. And then auditing capabilities on top, because as I said, we have to handle a lot of data, and then routing capabilities based on what kind of security parameters can a provider support or infrastructure support. We will route only workloads that can be securely processed on that environment to that environment. So all of these capabilities actually built into the gateway. So we invested and built our own gateway for doing. So that sort of is one of the major pieces we have. And then there is the vector. We have our own knowledge stores and vector stores which can serve out a lot of different type of data, including graphs and data points and LLM driven queries and stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
So
it must be actually quite a privilege really to work at such a scale, because the kind of insights that you must be getting must be impressive to all of you also, right? Like RK, would you like to weigh in on that? And also, as I think AI becomes more and more capable, I think the trust and responsibility go hand in hand with that. Right. How do your teams actually deal with creating those kind of guardrails of responsibility and safety in such a highly regulated environment, if you could touch on that?
Like Santanu and Gautham mentioned, we operate in a highly regulated environment, so every single activity that we do needs to be looked at from the security perspective, compliance perspective, and ensuring that nothing goes out which we have not vetted, right?
Yeah.
So across the board, whether it is about our code, utilizing the power of AI without the code getting exposed out there, right? It's not that any open LLM out there, our developers can go ahead and put our code base in front of the entire world. So we have guarded the code itself. The point that Santanu mentioned, we have our own infrastructure via the agent hub, which is the system which controls a lot of these accesses. We make sure that code is all housed within. Then there is all the guardrails that run on the code base in terms of the static checkers. If there is something that gets into the code, how do we make sure that the personas of performance, personas of security, personas of compliance is baked into the review cycles. So that is another important area that we focus on. All in all, every single step we ensure that the accountability of what goes out is on a human, and that is not offloaded to AI, right? So that has been the core guiding philosophy.
So the human is in the loop.
Human is definitely in the loop.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. And obviously there's always that sort of a dilemma of speed versus safety. How do you actually deal with that as well?
Yeah, like I said, the human is entrusted in making sure that the output that an AI generates is vetted by the human, right? So at no point in time, I mean, Santanu is the biggest proponent of making sure that nothing goes out without a human review. I mean, AI might generate code, build code, but the buck stops at the human.
Understood. And you mentioned Agent Hub. Right. I was actually going to come to this a little later, but since you mentioned it, I think it's a good time to segue into it. What is Agent Hub? What has it been created to solve, really, Santanu, if I can, because we hear a lot about agents everywhere. It's the buzzword of the moment. A lot of people don't even know really what is agentic AI. So if you could explain it to us about what do agents really mean at PhonePe, what are you aiming to achieve with it? What is the kind of experience it's going to offer users which perhaps they already haven't had?
So PhonePe kind of operates with a relatively smaller team for the amount of traffic data transactions, etc. will handle, but still it's a lot of information. So how does something work? How does, say for example, the transaction processing system work? Okay, what has actually changed in the new version of a regulation which RBI has published? So there's all this information that is basically floating around, right? So people wanted access to, so how do you basically disperse this information, right? So we thought, okay, we are going to write something for this. Now we have LLMs. Okay, so we built a system which basically you could upload some information, and a typical thing that you see right now on ChatGPT, where you can say upload some document, or on Notebook LM, where you can create some space where you upload some documents, and then there's the prompt that you can configure, and then ask it questions, it will give you answer. So we started off with that. Then we kind of saw that there are a lot more patterns that we can encompass if we can sort of create specialists. So these are like general things, right? But we wanted more specific sort of specialists which can answer questions, right? So said, okay, we're going to move to a agent based architecture. So from there we have now created a system where you can configure your agents, which you can interact with, either through, there's an UI through which you can go select your agent and interact with it. And we also expose APIs which other services can call and invoke those agents to do different things, right? And the latest thing we launched a couple of months back is the ability to thread all these agents together to create sort of workflows. And there are a lot of tools which you can integrate to the system, make API calls to things like Slack and Gmail and stuff like that, bring your own MCP servers. So it's like a fairly robust system which we've sort of built. It gets a lot of usage.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. But I think for maybe the layman, Gautham, you want to give us what does that mean in regular terms? In terms of regular users, what does that mean practically for them?
Well, fundamentally for since we built the agent hub for employees at PhonePe to use, right? Basically means that if you're doing something that one requires access to a large volume of information that's in many different locations, and then you want to automate workflows or things that you can do with that info, right? You take that information, you synthesize it, you process it, and then you have an input that tells what the eventual output should be, and then you want to keep doing it. It just makes it a lot easier. So Agent Hub, while Santanu talked about all the mechanics that they have built and set up, there are simplified interfaces that anybody can go in and set up their workflows, set up their rules without having to know how to write code or writing code, and just get things done. Yeah,
it's basically a shared.
Yeah, it just makes it a lot easier to get things done. For a lot of things that would otherwise take too much time, too much time spent on like just finding things and just processing or kind of understanding information or data, right? So yeah.
RK, so what about your teams? I'm sure it must have also seen the kind of advantages of Agent Hub and shared workflows as well, right? So could you tell us your experience?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, in the product development lifecycle, each and every step is being benefited by the advent of AI. One of the examples, if I can use, is our designs are all provided on a tool called Figma, and a typical app developer's role would be to convert that into code, create these mobile application screens, and that is very procedural, if I can use that word, right? Wherein there would be a set of constraints for the UI to be built, and all of that is now automated through AI, right? So with the LLMs and the tools usage, the tools bring in the context of PhonePe's design language and design system, and through that, most of the UI development work is now offloaded to the AI tools. And that kind of gives back time for the developers to focus on, like I said, performance or edge cases or more robust systems to be built, and the brain cycles would go in ensuring that those get harnessed that much more
Yeah.
than spending time on the mundane activities.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said at the beginning of the conversation as well, I think that's one of the biggest things we look for in AI, to basically free up our minds to focus on the work which really matters. And the other thing I think a lot of people look at AI for is, you know, we hear so much about it being a great democratizer, especially when it comes to finance and especially when it comes to, in PhonePe's case, access to credit. Tell us a little bit about how does one ensure people actually get easier access to credit, but also that those lending decisions are, you know, fair and reasonable and responsible, and how does AI really help in that journey? Gautham, if I can ask you.
Sure, and I think credit is very critical for financial inclusion,
Yeah,
especially in India. And while we see access to credit as a really big challenge, I think, you know, one level up, there's also, you know, education about credit, right? And I'll start there because, you know, there's a lot that, you know, users try to, like, you know, understand or assume about what credit is, how to one get access to manage, and then how that life cycle really works, right? And how it can help them rather than turning into a burden or a liability. Sorry. So one of the things that we do in PhonePe, right across our app is, you know, across all credit products that we have on offer, there is a very deliberate, you know, mechanism for us to, you know, educate users, whether it be in their language. You know, folks who probably have never had a credit score or a bureau score before, how do we tell them what it is? And, you know, folks who have it but haven't really cared about it, how can we help them get it better? Because that opens up access to more credit products, right? Then, of course, there is, you know, actual access, which is underwriting risk, right? AI is able to inference a lot more signals than, you know, all the traditional channels. It can even look at things that you do on the app, right? Predict your cash flows better. Look
So
at your
financial patterns.
pretty much,
essentially,
right?
Yeah.
All of it, and then suggest or recommend products for you that we know you can repay, right? The focus should not be just on consumption.
Yeah.
It should be on making sure that, you know, it's a healthy addition to your lifestyle, right? So that's one area that, you know, AI, especially a bunch of systems that you know, we've built internally, as well as, you know, stuff that that's out there, get used, you know, a lot at PhonePe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for giving us that very practical perspective and an important perspective, because I think that's something a lot of people are interested in, especially like you said, people do want to be educated about access to credit, especially in a country like India. I want to sort of understand now, you know, I think I started, of course, saying that I think the days of AI just being a buzzword is over, or it just being something which is a future technology people are just curious about. Santanu, I wanted to come across to you actually and ask you, has it now really cut through the hype, do you feel? Is it something which is becoming more fundamental to like how products, digital products are really experienced, would you say?
So at PhonePe, we basically are a customer and product first company, and we will use whatever we have at our disposal to bring more people, you know, to be enable more people to use and get access to the services, etc. we provide. And I think AI is going to become a force multiplier over there. So yeah, so I don't think we'll ever be like a AI first company. We will always remain a customer first company. I'd like to frame it that way, right? And there is still some hype, and we've somehow always managed to find a balance between things, right? And that reflects in our platform, that reflects in our product, I think, that reflects in the overall way we project ourselves in the community, right? And I'm pretty sure we will find a balance with AI as well. We've already found quite a good balance with AI right now, right? So yeah.
Interesting. I'd like to know, what is the part that you feel is the hype?
Now the thing with PhonePe is, I told you we are customer first outside, we are sort of people first inside. And because of that, we kind of are able to build such a scaling product with, again, relatively less number of people, right? So what the talent density at PhonePe is really high, and anyone who has hired good people would know it is like a very, very difficult proposition, right?
Absolutely.
So we deploy AI to actually empower our people, right? And he was talking about the fraud detection system, for example. So we have really good analysts in the fraud detection team, right? And we have deployed tools which sort of handle the regular cases which they have already solved, the patterns they already know. So once you know a pattern, you know how to react on that, what investigations need to happen to sort of determine if fraud actually matches the pattern or not. Once you know, you know. So if we can automate that part of it, it frees up the brilliant people who figured out this way to actually look at the data and find out more things, right? Which actually translates to our customers and our merchants having a much safer experience.
You've brought up an interesting point, I have to say.
So
I'm keen to know your perspectives on it as well. RK, if we could ask you, what do you feel?
No, the conversation is very real now, right? I mean, unlike say a year ago, across the board, whether it's the developer group talking about how to use AI and how to get the most out of it, how to benefit out of it, to the consumers of it or the product builders of it, and ensuring that what best experience can we give, it's all very real now, right? While I agree with Santanu that the hype continues to gloss over things, but in the details, I think there's reality. I think every single individual in the company in different capacities is using AI, and it is benefiting, right? I mean, the result is for us to be experienced and seen. So I'm very pro of the usage of it.
Interesting. It's always good to have a variety of opinions on a panel, even within the same organization. Gautham, what do you feel about the hype around AI? Is it true?
Look, probably sounding very similar, but yes, it's something that empowers people, not like replace people. We tend to wear our values on our sleeves, and that's we wear our culture.
And not sleeves maybe, but the t-shirt.
Sticking a bunch on the walls. I see that's not here yet. But I think the investment that we have made across the board, whether it's technology, people, everything else, right, has worked out well for us, and it will continue to. When it comes to hypes, I am not someone who gets on the train. I'm outside it. I'll watch it go by. Right. We've seen what AI has been doing, right? So at an aggregate level, at a macro level, it'll definitely help. Now, for how we use that and how we can also make sure that we stay true to the problem statement that we set out to solve. We are pursuing our vision of unlocking progress for anyone in India. Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, right? We will continue to leverage AI to do that if that means we can do it better, faster, right? 22 languages, 1 billion people, and even more, right? That's still going to be our goal. And we'll watch the hype trains go by.
Absolutely. Watch the trains from the tracks, basically. Keep a track of the train, essentially. And also, you've come up with some really big numbers and a big audacious goal. So, 5 years down the line, what would look like success for you in terms of how your users are actually interacting with PhonePe and using AI? What would look like success for you?
I mean, there's a very nice way of telling people what we do, right? Send, spend, manage, grow. You can, send money to others on PhonePe. You can spend your money using PhonePe. You can manage your money on PhonePe, and you can grow your money on PhonePe. And that's like our mantra. I mean, we will say that we are on our way to that journey, right? I'll say again that we want to stick to the problems that we set out to solve 10 years ago when Rahul, Samir, and Burzin started off, right? I believe that we can get AI to our users like we do today. Search getting better, getting from like just navigation and looking things up to real actionability, right? Rather than just managing your money with AI, probably handing off a little more for it to get a little more control of your financial life cycle, right? We will see what the specifics are as we try to get there, right? So 3 to 5 years out. There's also the actual technology, the underlying foundational technology that's going to keep growing and scaling, right? So for me, it's low cost, and in every language, and India is diverse, so there's language, there's accent, and there's very different type of customers, and then to the entire scale of our population, 1 billion and more.
Absolutely, which brings us back to our topic which we are discussing today, which is of course AI at population scale.
Yeah.
Santanu, your thoughts?
I will be happy to support them building out the.
It's all on you.
The product and this thing. For me, I think what I see is the way people interact with the systems will probably slowly change. Okay, I have been around long enough to have seen what was being projected as something that is going to immediately happen when the dot-com bubble hit. It from outside it looked impossible, but if you look at the situation right now, we order everything online. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there are situations that are going to change. There are things we have to change in the system for us to be able to support their ambitions and keep empowering the people who are helping build that stuff and bring the latest and the greatest to our customers to enable to make their lives a little better. So yeah, I think a lot of changes forthcoming all the way up and down the stack because of AI.
I love your balanced view, which I think comes from, of course, your many years of experience. So I thank you for bringing that to the discussion today. RK, final thoughts on this?
Yeah, my view on this is the modalities through which a consumer might experience our product might change in future, and I would want to ensure that we capture that. The way in which people experience our products. I want to ensure that we are always running at at the same speed as the customer is, right?
Yeah.
If there is a new way of interacting, if there is a new way of experiencing our products, and the population takes to that, I would want to ensure that our products and the technology that powers it, enables me to offer the same level of expectation that a customer has.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's going to be our focus.
I love that, running along at the same speed as the customer. I really have that great picture in my mind, and thank you so much for bringing this all together for us today. It's been a very, very interesting conversation. You all have made a very big topic and a lot of complex discussions very simple for all of us to understand. So thank you so much for lending us your time today. It's been absolutely a pleasure talking to each and every one of you. Thank you, Jill.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.